40 years. That's how long I was married to him. 40 years of shared mornings, quiet dinners, and a life I truly believe was built on trust. My name is Margaret. I'm 67 years old, and until recently, I thought I knew everything about my husband. Richard was a calm man, reserved, responsible, the kind of person everyone respected. He worked as a financial consultant for most of his life, always careful with money, always planning for the future. Our future, he used to say. We didn't have children, not because we didn't want to, it just never happened. But we built a life anyway, a beautiful home, a quiet routine, a marriage that, from the outside, looked perfect, and for many years, I believed it was. Until the day everything ended. It was a Tuesday morning. Ordinary, too ordinary. Richard sat across from me at the kitchen table, stirring his coffee like he always did, but something felt off. He wasn't looking at me, not once. "Is everything okay?" I asked. He nodded. "Of course." But his voice felt distant, like he was already somewhere else. I didn't push. After 40 years, you learn when to speak and when to stay quiet. That was my first mistake, because 2 days later, he told me he was leaving. Just like that. No warning, no discussion, no fight. "I think it's time," he said. I remember laughing, not because it was funny, but because it didn't make sense. Time for what? For me to live my own life. The words didn't even feel real. "Richard, we've been married for 40 years. "I know." "And you're just leaving?" He finally looked at me then, and what I saw in his eyes terrified me. There was no guilt, no hesitation, just certainty. "I've already made arrangements," he said. Arrangements. That word echoed in my head for days, as if our entire life together was something that could be packed away neatly, like old clothes. The divorce happened faster than I thought possible, almost too fast. Papers were already prepared, documents already signed, lawyers already involved. It was as if he had been planning this for months, maybe years, and I had no idea. But the real shock came after, when I found out what I was left with. Nothing, not the house, not the savings, not even the accounts we had built together over decades. Everything was in his name, or transferred, or gone. "You signed these years ago," the lawyer said, sliding papers toward me. My hands were shaking as I looked at them. Old agreements, financial authorizations, things I'd trusted him with, without ever reading carefully, because I trusted him. 40 years of trust, reduced to signatures I barely remembered. "I don't understand," I whispered. The lawyer sighed. "Legally, there's very little you can claim. Very little." Those words felt like the ground disappearing beneath my feet. I left that office with a single suitcase at 67 years old, after 40 years of marriage, with nowhere to go and no idea what I was supposed to do next. That night I stayed at a cheap motel, sitting on the edge of the bed staring at the wall, trying to understand how my entire life had vanished in a matter of days. But what I didn't know yet was that Richard hadn't just left me. He had been hiding something, something big, something that would change everything, because a week later I would receive a letter about a house no one had ever told me about. The letter arrived on a grey, quiet morning. At first I almost didn't open it. I was sitting in the small kitchen of the temporary apartment I had managed to rent for a month. The walls were bare. The silence felt Chujim after 40 years of shared life. The envelope had no return address, just my name, Margaret Ellis. Something about it made my chest tighten. My hands trembled slightly as I opened it. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a key, an old one, heavy, not like modern keys. the kind you only see in older houses. My heart started beating faster. I unfolded the letter. The handwriting was unfamiliar, neat, careful, almost deliberate. Mrs. Ellis, if you are reading this, it means circumstances have changed. The property at 14 Willow Creek Road legally belongs to you. You were never informed, but the documents confirm your ownership. The key is enclosed. You deserve to know the truth. That was it. No signature, no explanation, nothing, just an address. And a sentence that wouldn't leave my mind. You were never informed. I read it again and again and again. My first thought was simple. This had to be a mistake, some kind of confusion, or worse, a scam. But something didn't feel like a scam. Scams ask for something, money, information. This letter asked for nothing. It only gave a key, an address, and questions. Too many questions. I grabbed my phone and typed the address into the map. 14 Willow Creek Road. The location appeared almost instantly. About an hour and a half away from where I was. A small town I'd never been to, never even heard of. I stared at the screen. My heart was racing now. Why would I own a house there? How? Who sent this? And the most terrifying question of all, did Richard know? The thought made my stomach twist, because if he did, then this wasn't just a coincidence. It was something he had hidden from me. For how long? I didn't think twice after that. I grabbed my coat, my bag, and the key, and I left. The drive felt unreal. The entire time, my mind was racing with possibilities. Maybe it was a clerical error. Maybe someone with the same name. But deep down, I knew this wasn't random. Something about this was connected to my life, to my marriage, to him. The town was small, quiet, the kind of place where everyone probably knows each other. Old houses, tree-lined streets, everything felt still, almost frozen in time. When I finally turned onto Willow Creek Road, my hands tightened on the steering wheel. The houses there were older, beautiful in a worn, forgotten way. Number 14 was near the end of the street. I saw it immediately, and my breath caught. It wasn't abandoned. Not exactly, but it wasn't lived in either. The garden was overgrown, the paint slightly faded, but the structure itself, it was solid, strong, like it had been waiting for someone, for me. I slowly parked the car in front of it. For a moment I couldn't move. My heart was pounding so loudly I could hear it. This is crazy, I whispered to myself, but I still stepped out. The air felt colder here, quieter. As I walked toward the front door, I noticed something strange. The mailbox, my name was on it, Margaret Ellis. Not new, not recently placed, old, faded, like it had been there for years. A chill ran down my spine. How is that possible? My fingers trembled as I reached into my pocket and pulled out the key. This was the moment everything would either make sense or fall apart completely. I stepped onto the porch. The wood creaked softly under my feet. I stood in front of the door for a long second. Then I inserted the key. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. I turned it. The lock clicked, loud, echoing in the silence, and slowly I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Old wood, dust, time, but underneath it, something else, something familiar. I stepped inside and froze because the house was furnished, not randomly, not like a forgotten place. Everything was arranged carefully, deliberately, like someone had lived here or was supposed to. My eyes moved slowly across the room. The furniture, the curtains, the small details, and then I saw it on the wall, a framed photograph. I walked closer. My heart was racing again, and when I looked at it, my entire world shifted. It was me, a younger version of me, standing next to Richard, but not in our home, not anywhere I recognised. This house, this exact house, and we were smiling like we belonged here, like we had always belonged here. My hand covered my mouth. No, that's impossible, because I had never been here before. I would remember. I had to remember, but the photo didn't lie. I was there years ago in a house I didn't even know existed. I don't remember how long I stood there staring at that photograph, trying to force my mind to recognize something, anything, but there was nothing, no memory, no feeling, no trace of ever being in that house. And yet, there I was, smiling, happy, standing beside Richard like it was the most natural place in the world. This isn't possible. My voice sounded chujou even to me. My hand was shaking as I reached for the frame. The glass was cold, real. Everything about it was real. I turned it over, and that's when my breath caught again. There was a date written on the back, June 12th, no year, just the date. But I didn't need the year, because something deep inside me shifted. That date, it meant something. I just couldn't reach it. Not yet. I placed the photo back slowly, my heart pounding. Then I started looking around more carefully. The house wasn't just furnished, it was personal. There were books, dishes, curtains that looked like something I would choose, a soft beige sofa, a knitted blanket folded neatly on the armrest, even the scent. It felt familiar in a way I couldn't explain, like walking into a memory that refuses to show itself. I moved deeper into the house, room by room, each step making my chest tighter. The kitchen, simple, warm. The bedroom. I froze in the doorway, because on the bed there was a dress, folded carefully, my dress. I knew it instantly. Soft blue fabric, a small tear near the hem, something I'd always meant to fix but never did. My legs felt weak. I remember this, I whispered. But I didn't remember being here. I remembered wearing the dress. I remembered Richard looking at me and smiling, that quiet smile of his, but not here, never here. So how? I sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, trying to breathe, trying to think. That's when I noticed the nightstand, a drawer, half open, something inside it. I reached for it and pulled it out, a small notebook, old, worn at the edges. My fingers hesitated. Then I opened it, and my heart stopped. It was my handwriting, every page, every word. It was me, but I had never seen this notebook before in my life. The first page read, "If I ever forget, this house is ours." My vision blurred. No. I flipped to the next page. Richard says it's safer this way, that no one can take it if no one knows. My hands started trembling harder. Safer? From what? From who? Page after page. Short entries, fragments of thoughts, all written by me, all describing a life I didn't remember living. We only come here sometimes. It has to stay a secret. He promised this place would always be mine. Even if something happens, he said I must trust him. Tears were falling now. I couldn't stop them, because suddenly pieces started to move in my mind, not full memories, just flashes, a road, trees, that dress, his voice, saying something I couldn't quite hear. But it felt real, too real. And then the last page, I almost didn't want to read it, but I did, and everything inside me went cold. If you're reading this and don't remember, then something has gone very wrong. Richard was afraid they would find out. He said if anything happens to him or to us, this house will be your only protection. Trust no one, not even him. I dropped the notebook. My heart was racing so fast it hurt. Not even him? What did that mean? Richard was afraid of something serious enough to hide an entire house, something serious enough to make me write this for myself. And then forget. But how do you forget something like this? How do you forget an entire place, an entire part of your life, unless, my breath caught, unless you were made to forget? No, I stood up suddenly, pacing the room, trying to push the thought away, but it wouldn't leave because nothing else made sense. Not the house, not the notebook, not the photo, and definitely not the warning. Trust no one, not even him. A cold realization crept into my mind. What if the man I spent 40 years with was never the man I thought he was? And what if leaving me with nothing wasn't betrayal, but part of something much bigger? My eyes slowly moved back to the notebook on the bed, then to the door, to the empty, silent house. And for the first time since all of this began, I felt something stronger than fear. I felt danger, because wherever Richard was now, whatever he had done, it wasn't over, not even close, and somehow I had just stepped right back into it. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The house was too quiet, too full of questions. I sat in the living room, the notebook in my hands, rereading the same lines over and over again. Trust no one, not even him. The words echoed in my head like a warning I had been meant to hear. Again. Outside, the wind moved softly through the trees. Every sound felt louder. Every shadow felt deeper. And that's when I noticed it. At first, I thought it was nothing, just a reflection, a trick of the light. But then I saw it again, through the window, across the street, a car parked, engine off, lights off. But it hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. My chest tightened. Calm down, Margaret, I whispered to myself. It's probably just someone who lives here. But something inside me said otherwise. I stood up slowly and stepped closer to the window, carefully, not wanting to be seen. The car didn't move, didn't react, just stayed there, watching. Oh, maybe I was imagining it. God, I wanted to be imagining it. I stepped back, my hands cold now, my heart racing again. That's when the memory hit. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. A voice. Richard's voice. Low, serious, different from how I had always known him. If you ever see someone watching the house, don't stay. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. I remember that. It was faint, like hearing something through water. But it was real, and it terrified me because it meant one thing. This wasn't new. This had happened before. My eyes snapped back to the window. The car was still there. I didn't think anymore. I just moved. I grabbed my bag, the notebook, the key, everything I had, and I headed for the back door. If someone was watching the front, I wasn't going to give them what they wanted. The back exit opened into a narrow path behind the house, overgrown, hidden, perfect, like it had been designed that way or used that way before. I stepped outside, closing the door quietly behind me. The air felt colder now, sharper. I didn't look back. I just walked fast, then faster, until I reached my car. My hands shook as I unlocked it, got inside, locked the doors immediately. Only then did I finally look up, through the windshield, and my heart dropped. The car across the street, its headlights turned on, slowly, deliberately, like it knew, like it had been waiting. No, no, no. The engine started. The car began to move toward the house, toward me. I didn't hesitate. I started my car and drove, fast, too fast for those narrow streets, but I didn't care. I just needed to get away. In the rearview mirror, I saw it. That car following me. A cold wave of panic rushed through my body. They're real. The word slipped out before I could stop it. They, whoever Richard had been afraid of, whoever I had written about. They weren't just part of some old secret. They were here, now, and they knew about the house, which meant they might know about me. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Think. Where could I go? Not the apartment. If they were watching the house, they could track me, not the police. Something about this felt wrong. Too big, too controlled. And then another memory, a flash, quick, sharp. Richard again, his voice urgent this time. If anything happens, go to Daniel. Daniel? My breath hitched. Who was Daniel? Why didn't I remember that name? But my body reacted before my mind could, like it recognized something I didn't. Daniel, I whispered. The name felt safe, familiar, important. The car behind me got closer. My heart pounded harder. I needed to decide. Now, trust the fragments or run blindly. I pressed the gas harder. Okay, Daniel, I said under my breath. Whoever you are, you better be real. Because for the first time in 40 years, I realized something terrifying. I hadn't just lost my husband. I had lost the truth. And now it was coming for me. I didn't know where I was going, only that I couldn't stop. The road stretched ahead of me, empty and dark, while the headlights behind me stayed too close, too steady. They weren't trying to overtake me. They weren't honking. They were just following patiently, like they knew I would make a mistake eventually. My hands tightened on the steering wheel. Think, Margaret. Think. Daniel. The name echoed in my head again. Not just a random name. It carried weight, urgency, like something Richard had said not once, but many times. Why didn't I remember him? Why would Richard trust someone I couldn't even recall, unless I had known him before whatever happened to my memory? My breath caught the notebook. I reached over blindly and grabbed it from the passenger seat, flipping through pages with one hand while trying to keep the car steady. Messy, risky, but I didn't have a choice. Page after page, fragments, notes, fear, and then there, a name, Daniel Hayes. My heart skipped. I slowed, slightly focusing. Under the name, there was an address and one short line. If Richard fails, Daniel won't. A chill ran through my entire body. Fails? What did that mean? What had Richard been trying to do, and why would he fail? The car behind me flashed its headlights once. Sharp, intentional, a warning, or a signal. I snapped the notebook shut. Okay. I quickly entered the address into my phone's map. It loaded, 30 minutes away. I swallowed hard. That was my only lead, my only chance. Please be real, I whispered, and I drove. The house was nothing like I expected. When I finally turned onto the street, I slowed down. The area was quiet, but not abandoned. Clean, orderly, the kind of place where nothing looks out of place, and that made it worse because if someone like Daniel lived here, he wasn't just anyone. He was careful, prepared, maybe even dangerous. I parked a few houses away. The car that had been following me, it didn't turn in. It kept going, disappeared down the road, but I didn't feel relief. If anything, that made it worse because it meant they didn't need to follow me anymore. They already knew where I was going. My heart was pounding as I stepped out of the car. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, to run, but I didn't because I had nowhere else to go. I walked toward the house. Number matched. Lights were on inside. Someone was home. I reached the door. Hesitated, then knocked once, twice. Silence, then footsteps, slow, measured. The door opened just a little, and a man looked at me, mid-40s, sharp, glad, calm, too calm. His eyes scanned me instantly. Not surprised, not confused, like he'd been expecting this moment. "Margaret," he said quietly. My blood ran cold. "You're late." I stared at him. "You know me?" He opened the door wider. "Come inside. Now." Something in his tone, not aggressive, not gentle, just certain, like there was no time to question. I stepped in. The moment I crossed the threshold, he locked the door behind me. 3 locks. Fast. Practiced. I turned to him. "Who are you?" He looked at me for a long second, then exhaled slowly. "My name is Daniel," he said. My stomach dropped. "Daniel Hayes." Silence filled the room, heavy, thick. "Richard told me about you," I whispered. His expression changed, just slightly. "Then you remember?" "No," I said. My voice shook. "I don't remember anything." That hit him. I saw it for the first time. His calm cracked. "Damn it," he muttered under his breath. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing once like he was trying to decide something. "Then we don't have much time."
Looked straight at me.
My heart started racing again.
"Time
He
for
said
what?"
quietly. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "For you to understand what your husband actually did?" I froze, because something in his tone, there was no anger, no judgment, only urgency and something else. Respect. "For 40 years, Daniel continued, you thought you were married to a careful, quiet man." I swallowed. "Yes." Daniel shook his head slightly. "No," he said. "You were married to a man who's been protecting you from people who would have destroyed your life in a single day." My breath caught. "What? The house," he said. The money, the divorce." He looked me pramv ochi. "That wasn't him betraying you." A pause, then, "That was him trying to save you." The room went completely silent. "No," I whispered. "That doesn't make sense." Daniel stepped even closer now. "It doesn't have to make sense," he said. "It just has to be true." My chest tightened. "Then why leave me with nothing?" His jaw tensed. "Because if you had anything, they would have taken it." A cold wave washed over me. "They?" Daniel didn't answer immediately. He walked to the window, looked outside briefly, then turned back. "The people following you," he said quietly, "they're the reason your husband disappeared." My heart stopped. Disappeared?" Daniel nodded once. "He didn't leave you, Margaret." A pause, then the words that shattered everything I thought I knew. "He went missing?" "He went missing?" The words didn't register at first. They just hung in the air between us, heavy, unreal. I stared at Daniel, waiting for him to take it back, to say he meant something else, but he didn't. He just nodded, slowly, carefully, like he understood exactly how much those 2 words could destroy. My legs felt weak. I sat down without even realizing it. "No, that's not possible," I whispered. "He divorced me. He left. I saw the papers. You saw what he needed you to see." Daniel cut in quietly. I looked up at him. My heart was racing again, but differently now. Not panic, not fear. Something deeper, something breaking. "He knew they were getting closer," Daniel continued. "Closer to him. And to you." "Who are they?" I asked, almost afraid of the answer. This time Daniel didn't hesitate. "A network," he said. "Not official, not visible. People with money, influence, and no limits." My stomach turned. "What do they want?" Daniel's eyes locked onto mine. "What your husband had." My breath caught. "The money?" He shook his head. "No." A pause. Then, "Information." The room felt colder. He worked in finance, Margaret, Daniel said, but not just numbers. He had access to things, accounts, transfers, hidden assets, powerful people's secrets. My mind struggled to catch up. Are you saying Richard was involved in something illegal? Daniel exhaled slowly. No, he said. I'm saying he saw something he wasn't supposed to. Silence. Thick. Heavy. And instead of using it, Daniel continued, he tried to protect you from it. Tears filled my eyes again. But why didn't he tell me? Daniel's expression softened for the first time. Because the moment you know, he said quietly, you become part of it. That hit harder than anything else, because suddenly everything made sense. The secrecy, the hidden house, the notebook, the warnings, even the divorce. He wasn't leaving me, he was cutting me off from everything that could destroy me. But now you know, Daniel said, and the way he said it made my chest tighten. What does that mean? I asked. It means, he said calmly, you're no longer invisible. A cold silence filled the room. They'll come for you. I closed my eyes for a second, letting everything settle, letting the fear pass through me because something inside me was changing, slowly but clearly. I ran, I said quietly. Daniel didn't respond. I lost everything, I continued. My home, my marriage, my life. My hands clenched slightly. And now you're telling me he did all of this to protect me? Daniel nodded once. Yes. I looked down at the notebook still in my hands, my handwriting, my words, my past self trying to warn me. This house will be your only protection. I took a deep breath, then looked up at him. No, I said. Daniel frowned slightly. No? What? I'm not running any more. The words surprised even me, but once I said them, they felt right. Stronger than fear, stronger than confusion. They took my life anyway, I said. So what exactly am I protecting by hiding now? Daniel studied me. Carefully, like he was deciding something. You don't understand what you're choosing, he said. Then explain it, I replied. A pause. Long. Heavy. Then, if you stay, Daniel said slowly, you don't get your old life back. I don't have it anymore. You'll be watched. I already am.